everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel. For today's 5 on Friday, I'm going to talk about 5 middle grade books whose main character is an animal. Anyone who has been watching videos on my channel has seen me mention the Warrior series by Aaron Hunter, which follows groups of forest cats who live in clans. This is one of my favorite series ever, so I thought it would be cool to talk about some other books that also feature a main character that is an animal. Well, besides warriors, obviously. First up, I'm going to talk about Brave Lands, which is also by Aaron Hunter. In this series, we follow 3 animals: Thorn, a baboon; Sky, an elephant; and Fearless, a lion cub. Fearless was driven out of his pride as a young cub and has grown up with Thorn and his troop. Sky is a young elephant still learning the way of things among her fellow elephants. The rule in their land has always been kill only to survive. Unfortunately, a shocking betrayal leads to the shattering of peace between predator and prey, and it will be up to Thorn, Fearless, and Sky to set things right. So I thought this series was brilliantly well done. It is so interesting to see how these different animals interact, especially when, some of them are predators or some of them are prey, so they don't always get along. I like the multiple viewpoints of getting to see things from a lion, a baboon, and an elephant. I think it definitely gives a different perspective as to the things going on in their land. It is also really interesting to see how Sky, Thorn, and Fearless interact and their paths cross, and how you get to see in the first book the way things are set up, since Aaron Hunter writes in arcs. Just like with Warriors, there is going to be at least one arc of 6 for this series. So it is interesting to see how the world is built in that first book and how you can see the threads that are being set up in that first book and wondering how things are going to play out going forward. I've read, I want to say, the first 5 books in this series, and I've really loved to see the characters' growth throughout the story, and again, mainly seeing how these animals you wouldn't necessarily expect to spend time together interact and survive when their lives have been turned upside down. Next is Across the Dark Water by Jennifer Lynn Alvarez. So the animal in this book is a Pegasus. We're actually following a herd of Pegasi, though the main one is Echo Frost. We get to see things from her point of view. She and her herd are fleeing from their homeland as it is no longer safe for them to live there because an evil Pegasus has kind of taken over, and they're looking for a new and safer home. Once there, however, they come across Rocky, who is our other point of view, and he's human. And the humans in the land they find themselves in have taken all the wild Pegasi that were there and tamed them. So Echo Frost and her herd are realizing that this new land that they found has dangers that they couldn't have imagined, and they have to kind of try to navigate that. I think having a human POV along with an animal POV gives this a very interesting perspective on the story that is being told, as obviously Echo Frost and Rocky, our 2 main characters, have very different views of how things are playing out. I really liked their interactions and seeing them learn about one another and the way things progress through the first book. I haven't read any of the other books in this series yet, but I'm really looking forward to reading them, as this book has made me hugely invested in Echo Frost and Rocky and their stories and where things are going to go from the way things were left in book 1. Next up is The Wild Ones by C. Alexander London. In this, we follow a raccoon named Kit. He is living with his mother and his father when they are murdered by the Flealess, which are animals who have owners. This leads him to head to Ankle Snap Alley to find his uncle and ask for his help. Once there, he finds out there's a turf war between the Flealess and the wild animals who live in Ankle Snap Alley. He finds out that his parents may have been murdered due to information they might have had on a claim that the Wild Ones are the true owners of the land in Ankle Snap Alley, and not the Flealess. The Flealess obviously knew this was possible and supposedly killed them to bury the proof. It is then up to Kit to help the Wild Ones prove their claim and remain living on their land. I think this has a very interesting dynamic when you have a group of animals that are the wild ones, which are all these different wild animals who work together and kind of have their own little community in Ankle Snap Alley, even if they don't always all get along. While they also have to deal with the flealess, they have human owners and like they can go inside at night. They don't have to worry about trying to find food or shelter or anything like that. It is interesting to see Kit learn about his history, as the claim over this land goes back hundreds of years to a raccoon who made a bargain with a member of the flealess to gain control of Ankle Snap Alley. I also thought it was interesting to see Kit try to acclimate to this new way of life. As he grew up far away from Ankle Snap Alley and groups of animals living together, it was really just only him and his parents. This is a trilogy as far as I know, and I've read the first 2 books and really liked both of them, and I'm looking forward to reading the third. Next up, we have The Familiars by Adam J. Epstein and Andrew Jacobson. In this book, we follow Aldwin, a stray cat who ducks in a mysterious shop looking for a place to hide. It happens to be a pet shop, but not a normal pet shop, one where wizards in training can come to look for their familiars. Shortly after he gets there, one such wizard named Jack comes in and decides to pick Aldwin as his familiar. Aldwin quickly realizes that a home with Jack would be far safer than living on the streets, so he goes with him, despite knowing he has no magical powers. He then must convince the other 2 familiars who live with Jack, Skylar, a bluebird, and Gilbert, a frog, that he is as powerful as he claims to be. This gets more complicated when Jack and his fellow trainees are kidnapped by an evil queen. It is then up to Aldwin, Skylar, and Gilbert to save their trainees. This book is good for more of the early middle grade crowd, as it's got a lot of pictures, it's easier to follow, and the print is a bit bigger. So I think it's more designed for the younger end of middle grade than the older end, but I still really enjoy this series. I read the first 2 books and found them to be quite interesting. I like seeing Aldwin try to navigate this lie he's told, especially as he grows to care for Jack and then Jack gets kidnapped and he has no idea what to do, especially considering, like I said, he's been lying, so he has no idea how he's supposed to rescue Jack from this evil queen who does have magic when he has none. It's quite interesting to see him get to know his fellow familiars in Skylar and Gilbert, because they're 2 completely different personalities, both from each other and from him. I like that in this series, the animals have a bit of a magical power, and it's interesting to see Skylar and Gilbert and find out what they can do and how familiars are used to help the wizards in training. I think this is a really interesting twist on the animal as a main character, since he is believed to be someone who has magical powers. And I really like getting to see Alwyn go from this stray cat who only cares about himself to someone who cares enough for Jack that it doesn't matter that he has no magical powers. He can't just let him go without trying to save him. And lastly is A Wolf for a Spell by Kara Sutton. This is my only standalone on this list. In this book, our animal POV is a wolf named Zima. Zima lives in the forest with her pack, and all she wants to do is protect them. One day she is approached by Baba Yaga, who has a proposition for her, but she's been raised to believe that Baba Yaga is untrustworthy, so she refuses her help. Until one day, where she needs Baba Yaga's help. She ends up making a deal, and what Baba Yaga wanted was to switch bodies. Zima feels she has no choice but to agree. Yaga then goes off with her body, and Zima is stuck in Baba Yaga's house with chicken legs, trying to figure out how to be not just in a human's body, but in a human's body who has magic. While there, she meets an orphan named Nadia, and though she's reluctant to help her at first, when she finds out they have a common enemy, she goes out in the world with Nadia to try to help fix things and protect her pack despite being in a completely unfamiliar body. I thought this was another interesting twist because our animal main character spends most of the book in a human body, but still thinks and acts like an animal. She's completely unfamiliar with human things. So when she goes into the human world, it makes her an interesting time because a lot of things are so unfamiliar to her. On top of that, she's used to relying on her forest senses, and she obviously does not have those in her human body. I thought Zima was a great protagonist, and I really liked getting to see how she navigated being in the human world, and how at the end of the day, her main drive, whether she was a wolf, in a wolf's body or a wolf in a human's body was to protect her pack, because that was what was most important to her. So those are 5 recommendations for middle grade books whose main character is an animal. Do you know of any books that have a main character as an animal? If so, leave them in the comments section below. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me an animal emoji. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!